Yeah,
great save.
Yeah. So we are just bad mouthing you. Okay. Moving on to the first agenda item in the list. Are you starting the live stream also?
Yeah, sorry, I got the wrong microphone unmuted. I think we're live stream up.
Okay, then great. So Lee, we have already, covered a lot of folks, and 3-4 people have joined the call for the first time, and they are all very happy to join here. So let's move ahead with the first agenda item in the list. And it's by Antoinette, giving the progress update for Next.js updates.
Good morning, everyone. So I would like to give my update on the Net.js upgrade progress. And so the last thing that we had spoke with last time was about changing the React code mirror to a different code editor. And so I've actually been testing out Monaco editor, which actually have been working well so far, but just ran into a little bit of issues here and there. And which I can show in just a brief moment on where we at. So
okay, you can share your screen.
Okay. All right. So so as you can see here, this is pretty much in the middle of the changeover, and the one thing that glares to you the most is the icon. So I'm still trying to figure out why. It could be my theory was that Net.js was having better built-in support for the images. As we saw, they moved from where you don't have to just have everything external, and the only thing they really support is just the public or the static images. But for some reason, they also came out with another option where they can optimize the images for you. I mentioned this on the last week of phone call, but I didn't get a chance to show what it actually looked like with the icons. So I've tried turning off the image optimization. I've tried turning off I tried just changing the image attribute to just image that Net provided, but none of that worked. So I'm still working on that. But the first off is just the code editor. And so here's the one on the filter page. Don't mind the colors. It was just me trying to test out the Meshery version 5 theme. So it's just using the default, but that can be changed. So as you can see here, the code editor is just the white. It doesn't have the mini map. And the only problem that I came across is you can't close it. You can't do any of that. But it could be it could be some missing logic in where this happened, because I pretty much took the existing code and then just rewrite it to add the editor. It wasn't that much changes. It was just take out the options, because the Monaco editor, they already support some of the features that code editor did not. The before code editor, they had it as a separate extension, but the Monaco editor don't have that. Do have that. They just have it built in. So here's the one for the designs, and as you can see, when you go to flip, it doesn't have the content. Well, it looked like it has the content, but it doesn't. But then when you go full screen, it has the original. So it's working, but not fully working. And then on top of that, it's not even doing full screen. It's doing flip and then do the full screen, then you can see the content. So those are 1, 2, 3 of the things that I'm currently working on to get that fit. I'm trying not to refactor too much, but to where that it will break everything. But really just trying to fix all of this and then just go from there. So that's the major update since last week. As to just using the Monaco editor. And so among other addition would be, let's see. So one of the other things that I talked about before was the net configuration, where you can see you have the rewrite, which can help in certain situations if you're trying to use proxy, not proxy directly, but you can still use the previous file that we have, which is the Meshery Dev, and you can still continue as normal. But the nets also have built-in support for that as well, where you can just rewrite the path if you want to. And so even when I added this, it didn't break anything. And let's see, one other is the ESLint. Now the ESLint, I added the plugin for the net, which is supposed to follow the core web vital, but we're not using the full just yet. So once we go through a couple of the changes, then I'll be able to add that on, because after that it gets very noisy about the stuff though, because it's asking you to make changes recommended by what nets already have. And so since we're not quite there yet, so we'll get to that on that last part. And then as you can see, I turn off the rule here for the no image element. So whenever you see it through the CI build, you shouldn't see the image recommendation. And I believe that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment about, excuse me, about SVGs, and just kind of sort of two topics maybe at hand, but one of them is, well, actually, maybe Abhi, can you speak to the chosen direction for how it is that SVGs, all of them, not just icons and logos, but arrows and carrots and just all of the images that are SVGs, the mechanism by which those are consumed, either through an icon library and importing those from a library, or the build out of those as individual SVG components in React components. Because it looks like from what Antoinette is describing, I don't know if it was like that, the weirdness around that super large arrow. I don't know if that's because this version of Next.js is trying to optimize or what, but I don't know if that bears weight on some of the recent decisions there.
Part of the reason it may occur is because, as Antoinette is mentioning, that she's using MUI 5 now, right? So MUI 5 has its own icons, which are optimized or somewhat set up for that version of Material UI. So maybe that is one of the things. Other than that, there may be one of the reason that these down caret symbols, down chevron symbols, the big ones, they are first of all the Material UI icons, and they may be set to some height and width. That's because we have just changed the themes. So as we can see here, that create design and import design is still taking blue color. So somewhere we are missing the theme, right? So our theme is not properly propagating to the MUI 5, as I'm just guessing about it. I don't know the code right now. So that may also be the reason for the large icons here, because that whatever we have said, 32 pixel, 42 pixel for the MUI icon, it behaves as it is very big according to the new style theme or system that MUI 5 provides. So maybe these are these may be 2-3 reasons. So it may be due to partial upgrades, or just a theme not propagating properly, or something else, right? So that may be the reason. Other than that, Monaco code editor, actually don't get why it was happening that when you flip the flip the card, so you don't see any content, although there is a content loaded, but it's all in dark. And then yeah, on full screen you see everything. So that may be due to theme only, because when you flip the card it is all black theme, and when you expand it or click on full screen, when you actually see the full content, it is based on white theme, and you all see everything on the paper. Other than that, when you flip it, I think it is still code mirror, like the one how it's being shown, the one, it looks like as if it is using code mirror, although I'm not sure. But you're saying like you're still in progress in that regard, so I won't comment a lot on this.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's related. Yeah. So there's, I guess, depending upon what the actual issue is, that behavior does bear weight on some recent discussions about whether or not to use, custom built React components for SVGs or to consume from the libraries.
Yeah. I remember I have first of all, I have created a doc, added a doc in the contributing guide for SVGs, like how they should be used, after discussing after discussing the solutions of the problem that we are getting in the Safari itself. So I think that is one of the things that you might try to take a look into. And if you're missing something, or if you think like that won't work, so feel free to tell it. Other than that, there is a revert PR. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but Albie, that doc doesn't specify. All that doc specifies is where to write the SVGs to the file system, I think, and not necessarily. It talks a little bit about how to treat them, but not necessarily. Yeah. So the doc is missing part of the prior decision, and also I think that prior decision needs to be accounted for in context of this impending upgrade. So getting at the bottom of whether a theme isn't being propagated, and that's why you're seeing large icons, or if we need to revert that prior decision. And so I just wanted to bring up that topic and note it as an issue. The second item around SVGs is, so Colby and Antoinette and Avi and I were having a discussion yesterday in the Meshery UI Slack channel about, about SVGs. And I just wanted to bring up the topic very briefly, not to rehash the whole thing, but just to ask if anybody had come across a new data point, or if anybody had been able to kind of prototype a potential solution since yesterday. I don't know that anyone has. Okay, I had to ask.
Well, I'm going to work on it today, but to add on to what Avi was saying, I will say when the icon got large like that, it was before I even made any movie change, the style changes. And so that was why my initial thought it had to do with net on how it was processing the images when you export it. And then when we go to serve it from the from Go, and I'm thinking that's where it kind of there's a disconnect, because it's weird. It's only just that icon. Even when you look in the dev console, you can see that the path it actually got changed somehow. But on when you in the original file, it's small. So that's why I was testing it out in a completely different project, and I had to check my sanity, like, wait, I'm pretty sure it's tiny. And then so when I check and I said, okay, I think it might be have to do with net on how it's processing it. But then I saw that there were I think I'm also thinking it may have something to do with Material UI version 4 on how they process the React icon. Because Material UI, they have their version of the SVG already optimized, and then you have the one that they're trying to work with, the React. And so that might be a problem there. So once I figure it out, we should be able to get that. But I haven't figured out to revert it, but I don't think I'm not really sure. Well, the only thing I can think of to revert would be just go back to an earlier version. Then it would just work like it normally did. So obviously it has something to do with net. So
Mhm. Okay, yeah, thanks, Internet. By the way, just last question, that you have already committed all these things, like the progress that we are seeing here is already been committed in the PS, right? Is it?
yes, I have committed these. So if anybody would like to get on my PR and then check and see if there was something that I missed, then feel free to go ahead and then you can then we can just brainstorm, whatnot, let me know, go from there. But other than that, yeah. Yeah, it's already added. So
Okay, so yeah, so I, I think since it is a very big work, so someone from us, maintainer or either contributor or on anyone on the call can just jump into that PR and see how they can help there, right? So okay, this is the PR line, PR link. Uh, I think we covered it. So thank you, Internet. We'll be moving ahead to Pranav. He will be talking about bug fixes in user profile and user profile updates.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. It's a very small update. I'll quickly go over it. First thing, just to know that if someone is new and they don't know, Meshery is an extensible cloud native manager which supports different kinds of extension points. One of which is user account and which supports user profiles. So there was a recent bug which was discovered in which user profile was not being updated and it was leading to crashing the UI. And that was just because of a missing header, which was required by the backend in the remote provider. So I just added it and now it's working fine. Like we have also merged this PR. If you want to see a demo, so like I can edit it and update it, works perfectly fine. Yeah, that's all on this PR. Any like question on this? It was a very simple change in which I just had to add header instead of just specific kinds of cookies because like few header kinds of header is required by the remote provider because of the identity. So that's all in this PR. Any questions? We have merged this so in case you want to try it out, you can if you are on edge release. That's all from my side. Just one more update I want to give. Like I don't have a UI right now, but I'm also working on this thing in the background. Like I'm very close to it. Like I was before this meeting, I was working on the UI, so it's not complete, so I cannot give a demo right now. But hopefully, next week around this time, I'll give a demo on this as well. So, yep, so that's all on my side.
Thank you, Pranav. Okay, the next item. I have an update around migration to Cypress version 12. So version 12 of Cypress is one of the latest version. I think it's still the latest version, and we have been on version 9.7.1 on for a very long time. So we have just updated it due to some problem that we are facing, and we are in the state right now where all the tests either uh, UI test, I mean integration test, or the other one end-to-end test, they are all passing. You can see the logs that integration test and end-to-end test are passing. So for the new contributors and maintainers who are creating their own, I mean creating the PR, and they have already created the PR from one of the previous branch, so they can rebase their branch to the latest master so that their test will also be passing. So that was one update. So in this PR only, there has been multiple smaller updates that were very important in regard to how our CI processes our tests and do everything. So one of the problem that we are having, like for a very long time, that sometimes the integration test in particular runs for a very long time, right? So if you're seeing the screenshot here, so I have attached a screenshot where the test is running for more than 1 hour and 13 minutes, and I have to manually turn it off so that it doesn't fill up all the build minutes. So So that was the problem. So it was called, I mean, the root of the problem was the nodemon. So whenever Cypress processes something, so it adds the video and screenshots into the into one of the directory inside the Cypress. So that was triggering the nodemon update, that something in the file has changed, and it again rebuilds everything. So because videos are such a very, I mean, very large thing, and they are processed in chunks like 1 KB written in file, 2 KB, 4 KB, etc., etc. So the nodemon was in, infinite update operations. So it was stuck in the hell. So that's the reason, the tests were taking more than 1 hour sometimes. So that thing is fixed. So I have just removed the node1 and using node, because we are using watch inside node itself, like we are creating our own server. So we don't need the node1 in short. Anyways, moving to the next item. Uh, what we are lacking right now is, because there are only 2-3 peoples that can access the Cypress cloud dashboard, and there are many of us who don't know the actual reason of the failure. They will only know the text version of what Cypress shows, but the screenshots and videos and I mean, these two resources, normal contributor or maintainer or someone who is not allowed to look into the Cypress cloud dashboard, they won't see the Cypress artifacts. So now on every Cypress run, special, and only in the E2E test. So whenever the Cypress run, it will always upload the screenshots and videos as an upload artifact, and they can see it like this. I'm just giving a demo of how they can see it, because that's some complex. I mean, yeah, some people might miss it. So they have to remove this special job ID, because artifacts are uploaded on the root of the workflow. So they will go to the Cypress SS, which stands for screenshots and videos. That's a wrong naming, but yeah, I'll change it. So they'll download it from here and see it in the Finder. Anyways, yeah. So I hope I have covered everything. Yeah. So that was the update from the my side. Another side effect or side update around Meshery UI is, around Cypress upgrade is the uh, uh, upgrading to, or migrating to Cypress version 12 for other repos as well that we use Cypress in. So other than that, I just have these updates for today. If you do have question, please go ahead. Or we can move to Ashish.
And maybe just a quick check-in with Mario, just to confirm that he's been able to stay abreast of the changes, or concurs with the approach. Upgrading always or usually is a good thing, and passing test cases like always a great thing. And part of what you're trying to do is help everyone here get access to some of those test results by attaching screenshots and sometimes the recorded video clips or the recorded automated use that Cypress has of the UI. And so do you know, so in this case, all the tests are passing and we'll still get an attachment. So whether the tests are passing or failing, you'll get I wonder if that Meshery, just as a, like, with our, I don't know that this affects us. I know for some private repos that gosh, you tend to run out of storage after a while. So like the 130 meg copy of the Meshery binary may not be as useful, and it's quite large.
Yes.
So just a
Yeah,
food
yeah.
for thought.
I think it can be deleted, or if the Meshery binary is being used, so it will be used in the workflows itself. So whose lifespan will be around, uh, I mean, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 45 or 1 hour at max. So there is a special flag that is provided in the by the GitHub workflows itself. Like that's a feature in the GitHub workflow that you can delete the artifacts after, like there is an expiry to, you can specify the expiry date to each artifact that you upload. So for example, here is Meshery artifact. So I can provide an expiry date for 1 day or 2 day. So after 2 days, the memory will itself clean it up. The default expiry date is 90 days, so around 3 months. So I don't think we require that much long time, since so we can use that in order to, I mean, free up the space after each workflow run, either 1 day, 2 day, or 7 days, like whatever we find most suitable. And if it is of no use, I don't see any use right now for the Meshery binary, other than like if something is failing, so you can just download the Meshery binary in your local system and play around it, like what failed or whatnot. So other than that, I don't think there is any
Yeah.
use case, so we can actually remove it too.
Nice. Yeah, very good. Actually, two notes on this topic, and just for everyone here, is that it was, I don't know, it was just a couple of months ago that we'd had Craig Peters of GitHub here presenting, well, not Gitpod, but what is it, code spaces, and
Codespace, yeah.
how the Meshery org is enabled for code spaces, and GitHub had promised to give us well, an unlimited amount of minutes for the contributors to use to help just like run, Meshery, check out the Meshery repo and build Meshery in a code space. At the time, anyway, there's still an open, there's one issue that we had experienced, and that was around authentication and trying to travel through proxies and things in the code spaces environment. Actually, in that time, I know that we've improvements have been made, and people are now more familiar with how to configure a callback URL when they're authenticating with Meshery. And so I'll bring up the topic and I'll drop a link to the open issue here in case anybody on the call wants to have a go at meddling with code spaces and building Meshery in code spaces. And I bring that up because, yeah, like that, the potential value of keeping the Meshery binary resident as an artifact of those test results is like, yeah, it's convenient because you don't have to go build Meshery. You can just, grab the artifact and start to run it. But even more conveniently is something like code spaces that's open to us. And so, yeah, so if you're interested, just signal.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Lee. I hope you will be pasting the link. Moving to the next item by Ashish. So he will be demoing mesh model reflector. Yes.
Okay, so assuming my screen is visible, I'll just quickly first open the pull request, and then I'll take just 2 minutes to give a little context so that everyone is on the same page. So this is the pull request, which is migration of mesh model registry in pattern engines. I'll take 2 minutes so that this statement makes sense to everyone. So in Meshery, I'll use meshmap, but Meshery also has design configurator, which has similar constructs, except for the fact that you cannot visualize or design new stuff. So, but I'll be using meshmap in this case. So component, you have components, you have designs, you have applications. A component is a fundamental unit of deployment. So it can be a namespace, it can be a virtual service, basically a fundamental unit of deployment. And designs are composed of components. They are made up of components. You can draw edges between them. You can do all sort of things. Applications are they can be your Docker Compose apps, your K8s manifest, your Helm charts, anything converted into a design format so that Meshery can handle them. So UI has this design format, which is the front-facing format of what a deployment looks like, what a mesh map or a Meshery deployment looks like. And then on the backend, we were using, we have so what we used to call a pattern engine. The thing that is called design now, it used to be pattern, so that's why that's the legacy name. It's pattern engine, or you can call it design engine, and that handles the backend of these design deployments. And the way it handles it is basically it has a registry, and in that registry it has definitions of all these components already registered, so that if you try to deploy a namespace, it already understands what a namespace is, or if you try to deploy a virtual service, it already understands what a virtual service, what it means to be a virtual service, so that it can do all sorts of validations against and all those things. And initially we were using kind of what etcd used to do, simple key value in memory thing, although etcd is not in mem. So what we did was just completely in memory, and So in that logic, there were a lot of problems due to which we had to move from that model to the new model. Previously, we were using parts of open application model. And now because we have dropped that spec, we are using this new model, which we call mesh models. So as mesh models are introduced, these components, which were previously called OM components, because they were basically influenced by the OM spec, these will be called mesh model components. And the transition from OM to mesh model will be completely transparent, will be completely, I would say, fluid. So right now, the UI has not completely implemented mesh model. So the components that you see are from the previous iteration. But I have just in the running mesh instance that I have checked out the mesh model PR. So I have my mesh model changes on my basically transitioned mesh model changes in my backend. So I just want to demo that it is completely compatible with the legacy thing. I'll try to deploy and then I'll visualize few things for you. And basically just to show that I can create a bunch of designs and deployment would be successful. And when we move to the new mesh model components, the UI would change a little. So here, where you see only core Kubernetes SKU, you would see like hundreds of new components. Maybe like all the projects that you see under the CNCF landscape will be added over here under the new mesh model components. Other than that, everything would be the same. So imagine this demo, and then you can extrapolate that to deploying maybe like a load balancer on AWS. So right now I have one AKS cluster running, which has 2 nodes. So yeah, that was all the context needed. Okay, so now I'll take the next 5 minutes to just deploy something. So this is a design that I designed. It has a service with the name service Ashish, and then it is inside of the namespace testing Ashish, and the deployment would be handled by the new registry and not the old registry. So just to check, I'll deploy it in the playground that we have, and the namespace is deployed because the service lies inside of the namespace, and then the service is deployed. If I go over into my visualizer to see if the things were deployed successfully or not, I can filter by, let's say, testing Ashish namespace. And if I look over here and if I see service, yeah. So here I can see that my service was successfully deployed over here. So everything works fine. Good. Now, so basically, I'll try to deploy 3 things. I just deployed a Kubernetes thing, and let's try to deploy an application. So for example, a few folks, if you need to get started really quickly, if you need to deploy an application, let's say, and you don't want to, basically you want to have a service and a pod, and you don't want to go through the whole, deploying a service individually and then pod, and then making sure that the selector matches, and then the service matches points to the pod. So we have a custom component which we call the application component. So I just designed another I have another application component to demo, which is this one. And this is a simple Nginx server that I created. It has one replica. It will run one replica. It will run the image Nginx, and it will deploy things inside my default namespace. So if I'll try to deploy it, it's deployed. If we go back to our visualizer, and if we go to the default namespace, we can say filter by pod. At this time, can get rid of service. And as you can see over here, this is my Nginx pod that I just deployed. Yeah, there were some issues there. That's why the container is failing, but yeah, the pod was deployed. So yeah, the last one would be, I'll try to deploy a virtual service just to show that and this virtual service would be deployed by the adapters. So Meshery, so if you have a custom component or if you have a Kubernetes component, that logic is handled inside of Meshery, but you have, because Meshery is an extensible platform, you can have multiple adapters running alongside, and they communicate to Meshery using gRPC. So in this case, let's say I take another design which has something like a virtual service, and yeah, this one. So this, you can see that it has virtual service, and this virtual service is this is a single component, and this component definition was registered by the adapter, by the logo. And if I'll deploy it right now in visualizer, we do not have dynamic basically dynamically we cannot filter on a lot of things like a virtual service and destination rules. So I'll have to, yeah, inside of kinds, yeah. So I'll have to, if I go over to my kubectl for just for this purpose, and if I look at my virtual service, As you can see, this was deployed and this is the virtual service. And in the annotations, we have a lot of extra things over here, like the SVG color and the logos and the secondary. So basically right now what you were seeing over here, this visualizer, a lot of SVGs are there, a lot of logos are there, all the UI thing, these are hard coded right now in JavaScript. But as we move to mesh models, the idea is not just in designer mode over here, what you see. So not just these logos would be given by the backend. Also, when we detect stuff from your cluster, like we detect all these pods and everything, like we detected a virtual service, inside of annotations, we will have these things. So nothing would be hard coded. If something is detected by Meshery, so yeah, there can be some default values that if, dynamically, so for example, if you deployed something not using Meshery, so we weren't able to add these annotations, in that case, we will have some default ways to handle that case. But if you used Meshery, so basically there would be a value added to that thing, that if you used if you use basically mesh map to deploy your things, all these things, the whole visualization process would be completely dynamic, and the going from designer to visualizer would be very fluid. The same set of logos and everything would be used there. And because we map each detected thing back to the, so this ID that you're seeing over here is the design ID or the pattern ID. So basically you can look at in visualizer, you can look at one particular thing and then you can map it back to the design using which it was uploaded. So later on it will help us to merge designer and visualizer for a much better user experience. So that was like a little quick overview of designer, visualizer, and then we're trying to deploy everything using the new capability registry and showing that everything works. The only thing, so yeah, I'll stop right now so that if someone has any questions, then they can ask, and then I have another question for the UI people. So yeah, I'll stop now. Anyone has any questions now?
A question maybe for Ashish and maybe Pranav as well is, one of the last things that Ashish was saying is that when a user designs their infrastructure here, they deploy it, Meshery affects that design, the infrastructure changes, they can see those changes inside a visualizer and they get to navigate around. One of the last things that you were alluding to as a forthcoming capability is the notion that when they're looking at in the visualizer mode, they could see what changes or what nodes had been affected by a design. Has there been a prototype done on that? Or is that, is the plumbing all complete there? And that just, like how far away is something like that?
So mapping a node back to the design, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I would say the plumbing is already there. Yeah, the plumbing, the ID that I showed, that ID is good enough to map it back to it. So yeah.
Those darn
Any other?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we enlist the top 3 improvements on using mesh model instead of OAM, is one of them would be better handling of the SVGs, right? That's one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, because you said that there's no difference for, at least for an end user, right? So this mostly help aiding the development and more consistent structure of the data, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other benefits like big wins we get from this?
Yeah, so like previously everything was unstructured. We didn't have a concept of registrants, which is that right now, basically that model was not extensible to things like policies, things like relationships. So we, for example, what happens when you drop, let's say, a pod inside of a namespace? What what does it mean to have that. So well, that can be described in a policy, or it can be described in a relationship. And in the previous model, those things didn't quite fit. So previously the whole thing was completely it was not designed for a good user experience from this perspective, from let's say a mesh map perspective. It was more designed from a YAML perspective, and as like the mesh map says, move away from YAML. So our idea is that because we are moving away from YAML, the initial design we had that was kind of centered around that user will have an YAML should go away, and then we should have this new construct, and this new construct which we call mesh model with this new registry, and the whole database schema should change. So the object model that we have over wait, I guess I clicked the wrong button. There is a object model over here. Here we have designed the a bunch of data, like how a bunch of tables are going to look like. So like Meshery being like an extensible platform, we need to have everything structured in a way that things can be plugged in, and having like on backend, yeah, of course it will it will allow us to be more extensible than we were before. Go away, like not just adapters, have even more things, more than adapters. So there are a lot of things that are oncoming. So like I said, policies and relationships and a bunch of extra things to which I wouldn't commit right now because they're still under discussion. So the new mesh model construct allows that all that thing on backend to happen. So yeah, that's one of the other big advantages.
So this enables the like policies and like
Yeah.
the mesh map to work better with things we want to implement in the future. And looks like also the workflow engine, maybe not much, or maybe that's a separate.
So the workflow engine comes into play. The workflow engine could have been integrated in the previous iteration as well. So that's kind of an orthogonal issue, but yeah, I would think that since the data is a lot structured in this new model, we would have more. So we could have had the that thing before as well, but now we have more data, I would say, than we had previously, because we are more structured. We have becoming more structured. We moving away from a key value to a table automatically gives you a lot of data that then you can use to pump anywhere. So as we go into a notification center or an event center or whatever, over here what you see notifications, there would be another thing where each stage, like for example, I deployed, let's say, a namespace, and here you saw that the namespace was got deployed and then the pod got deployed. You would see that stuff over here in the real time. Yeah, basically we could have done that previously also, but in this when we do it here over here, we will have a lot more data, like, okay, this is being deployed and this might have this effect and this policy is being applied on this thing, and under this layer. So a lot more data in that line of reasoning. Any other doubts, or should I move on to the next issue? Small update. Okay, I'll take the silence for a no. I'll move my item to the last so that other people also have time to for their agenda items. So
Nice. So
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Ashish. So the next item is by Segun. Golang key commit hooks.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. So I think I should. Yeah. I will share my screen. Yeah. So sorry. So can you see my screen? So can you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to show. I think Lee made a comment on the commit hooks. So I think we need to update the documentation. So I think it's more of like a culture than a tool that's going to be implemented, because it can be easily be overwritten after like after like if we have someone else contribute to the project, or currently we are working with only Golang, so if you have someone else contribute to the project, it runs only on any file with a Go extension. So, but we have plans to improve it later on to other places, to the docs and also on. So now, currently now, I think there are many things that have to be discussed there, because I think one of the end-to-end Meshery tests are failing. So I think that needs to be fixed if this thing is made, because I think the new people, someone made a comment on that. The new people might find it a little bit harder to like make new contributions, but then they can easily just run the pre-commit hooks. That's verify, just overwrite it. So it can be easily be overwritten. But then on the contributor side, this Alex, this is just more of an agile process at the commit level, because this same test will still be run again by the actions tab. So I think this should be noted at the getting started, the contribution guide, about just you have to install whatever have to install the hooks, so the hooks can be triggered. So then you, in that, rather than having to make a commit, then what the test run, maybe fail, then go back and fix again. So this is going to happen at the commit level. So easily you can run another process to fix and fix and fix, rather than pushing to making commit and pushing on, then having to go back and make the reviews. So that's just basically it. So I think it's more of like a practice, more of a culture, like a thing to develop when you're what do you call it, when you're making contribution, when someone is about to make a contribution. So that's all I feel. So rather than having to make a commit and push it up, you can do all those at your system level, which will maybe faster to change. And you see the problem where the tests are, and each way every single thing is happening. So I think that's all I feel. I think that should be indicated at the contributor guide. Documentation should be upgraded to indicate that, also to indicate that at the when you want to start contributing to the Meshery Golang section.
Yes, Segun. Yeah, actually, Shegun, you might have just said it, and I might have just missed it. Did you say that you had found a mechanism to use to ensure that this particular pre-commit hook only fired on, well, ideally only on changes to
Golang,
yeah, that might be a
yeah,
hard.
if let's go to the sorry, trying to click. So ideally, if you read through the commit we are using, the repo commit we are using, it only works on the Golang by default. It only works on the Golang script. It only runs on any file with the Golang extension. But then you can also pass it at the commit level files, then pass it to ensure, maybe if you're not sure, if you want like double security. But by default, it runs only on the Golang extension.
That that answers that question. That's great. There was another like softer consideration around this, and maybe for those of you who've been around other projects, and Shegun, you might have an opinion here as well. If memory serves, there's a small question, I think, around messing with people's how do I say this? Like, so if you're a contributor of a project, you go to clone the project, and part of that clone is you get a couple of hidden folders inside of your clone, a .git folder. Within there, this particular pre-commit hook would be resident. I thought, and it looks like you've got a good write-up here. I thought that there was some sort of concern about the messing with the contributor's file system or something. Like the way that I'm
I think I don't know, the beginner made a comment on it, but then I think it was going more about the ES links, and then maybe like the old Meshery running on the old Meshery docs. But then we're only working with Golang here. Like usually this is only working on the Golang extensions only. So I think that was more about the other part of the UI part of it. But but then we haven't really implemented that to this new pre-commit hooks that we are doing. This is just for Golang. I think when we want to start in maybe like for spacing for the UI, the docs, pre-commit hooks, maybe we're going to like have like a call to like to discuss that in general, because when I actually implemented the docs commit LinkedIn docs there. That's I think the normal docs have some errors, maybe some spelling errors, little bit notations that need to be fixed before we do that also, because also at the UI level. So then that's why this is just only for Golang. So then we have to like maybe fix that first before we implement, move make the implement the go commit larger for us to do. I don't know if you get that.
Pranav might have a comment.
Yes, what I meant was that first of all, we actually need to have a pre-commit CLI installed on a system. Before that, we cannot actually run this pre-commit hook, because I tested
Yes.
it out. I myself was not having the CLI, so without that, it doesn't work. So after
Yeah.
installing that, there was a second problem, which was about conflicting pre-commit hook, because we already use UI Husky for a UI pre-commit hook. So at one time we can use just one pre-commit hook, or we have to like augment the way which we are using. So for that I need to like remove that code.hook path from my git config, and then it works, this particular Golang one. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was that we already have a lot of things failing in our like current like lane checks and failing unit tests. So if we don't fix it in this PR itself, then like nobody who are new to the backend contribution wouldn't be able to make any contribution, because it will keep on saying that like there is an error and it wouldn't take any new commits. So yeah, that was the thing which I wanted to like ask how we will be like combating all these things.
Okay. Okay. Yes. But then and this I won't really say maybe it's a solution, but then becoming hooks only works on the change files, like the files you are changing, not like it uses the already available code as like the base of it. So it only runs the test on like checks on the new files that are adding to it. But is it that's also you can pass it to verify from the old docs, but then this by default this only works on the new files that are adding to it. But then definitely I know this is also an error, because definitely you're also going to change, maybe you're changing to file. You run against indirectly running against everything. So I don't know, but I think we have to like fix also the Meshery CI test failing for this is mesh too. It's actually a very good observation, but then I'm still trying to think of more like a way to do that, but I haven't really gotten like a solution to that also, because but the test has to be fixed for also. But then commit also only works on the new files that are adding to it. It is only run on the new files. It uses the old, like the already available code as the base of it. So this that's something you have, but then it still directly work testing on everything also. So I haven't really figured out how like to do that. But I think I think we have to fix the mesh CLI tests are failing first before this can be meshed.
Thank you, Segal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, with this, let's conclude the meeting. So we'll meet again next year. So happy new year to everyone in advance. Wishing you a very prosperous next year on New Year. So
Happy New Year.
Lee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. It's amazing how this, geez, I feel like we should have a recap or like a small little speech or something. And I've had entirely too little coffee to do something like that. I'm just, like I'm tickled that like, today we've got like 27 people on the call. It's kind of the same thing for the other calls. It's pretty obvious that people are attracted to, well, at least to the community. I don't know about this stinking Meshery project, but at least they're attracted to the other people that are here, wanting to engage with them, exchange with them, learn with them, share with them, grow with them, get pissed off and punch their monitor with them, or or whatever those activities are. But people are coming, and it's really great. It's a ton of work and takes a lot of patience, I think, both for contributors and for maintainers. The maintainers are overwhelmed, and that's just a perpetual, like the masses against, a small collective. Let me say this to be clear, there are too few maintainers here. Please come be a maintainer. For my part, and I think I speak for the rest of the maintainers as well, we would love that. Like, there's a bunch of positions open. And it's not just code positions either. There's community management, there's a bunch of stuff to do. So like, if you're sitting around thinking that it's confusing, or you don't know where to jump in, or like, hey, like, that's your fault. Like come fix it. Just jump in, grab it. There's a newcomers meeting tomorrow. I'm held weekly. It'll introduce you to not just this crummy project here, but all the other ones. Yeah, so if you're here, whether as a user or contributor, get engaged. There's a reason why you're here. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen in 2023. Oh, that's going to be hard to say. Happy New Year, folks. Yeah, it's nice I hope you all have a good one. Yeah. I'm going to sleep. Anyway, thank you for
Thank
hosting.
you. Bye. Happy New Year.
Bye all.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Cheers.